everybody. Hello. I thought the Indian audiences were dynamic and got involved. So, hi everybody. Hello. That's better. Hi guys. My name is Ken Dodds, and I have a background in speaking. I've been invited to talk on some of the world's biggest stages for years. Shared the stage with people like Trump and others. And often I'm invited to talk to people about property development and property investment. My real career, however, since leaving the Australian Army, was involved with real estate and property development, and I've been a developer for close to 30 years. I'm a founding partner in a company called Resimax Group. Resimax Group, although it had its genesis all the way back in 1973, was formed as Resimax Group in 2010. I joined the business in 2003. Resimax Group is a group of companies. It's a vertically integrated development business. We are involved in every aspect of the property development program. In other words, we source the land, we source the funding, we develop the land. We own the bulldozers that build the roads, we put in the sewage, put in the water. Once that's done, we sell the land, we construct the houses. Once the houses are constructed and handed over to the investor, we have a real estate agency, which is the #1 real estate agency in our markets currently by a long, long way. And that real estate agency's role is to secure the best possible tenant, who pays the best possible rent, stays in the property for the longest period of time, and ultimately, when you wish to exit your investment, there is a pathway for that exit, and we assist you through that. And the way that our projects are designed, we build them in areas where we do guarantee our results. So we have the head brand, which is Resimax Group. Resimax Group Investor is the business or the part of the business that most people here would deal with on a regular basis. Tick Homes is the construction business. Leap Real Estate is my real estate agency. And apart from that, we have a number of other companies within the group that are involved with architecture, town planning, finance, and so on. Okay. Whilst founded in 1973, our founder was a man by the name of Joe Keir. Joe migrated to Australia and met his wife-to-be at that time. Her name was Marie. They formed a small business in 1973 called Joe and Mary Keir, or J&M Keir Builders. They had 5 children, sorry. The eldest boy grew up. He's now my business partner. And in 2010, we turned J&M Keir Builders into Resimax Group. And we founded the company on a small development scale. We only had 49 units. 49 units. We thought we had made it. We thought we were big. 49 units. That was in 2007. Today, we control, it's closer now to 40,000 residential lots in Melbourne. We have grown since 2007 to be Australia's largest privately owned, and we will remain privately owned, diversified property business in Australia. Certainly the largest in Victoria. The end developed value of our projects now are raising close to 25.6 billion Australian dollars. We have 12 master plan communities underway currently. The scale of some of those developments will go on for the next 20 years, with more than 10,000 lots in one or two of those developments. Our success really took off in around 2012, 2013 is when our business really took off. And it took off as a result of this. You see, in order to expand our business, I sought external markets, and I first went to Singapore. And what I discovered when I started talking to Singaporeans is they were fearful of a number of things. And I suspect the people in this room would have similar fears when looking to invest in property overseas. And their fears were, Ken, these properties that you're wanting to sell me, they're 6,500, 7,000 kilometres away. In your case, they're more than 10,000 kilometres away. They're in a different country, in a different time zone, with different laws and different rules. How do I know my money is going to be safe? How do I know I'm going to get what we invested in? And so we established our 5, 10, 20 guarantees. And we're the only developer that I know of, probably in the world, that offers these guarantees. These form part of the contract of sale and purchase. They've been in place and they have served more than a couple of thousand investors, 4,000 or 5,000 investors up until now. So we offer a 5-year price protection or capital guarantee. When you invest in a Resimax Group property and you invest in that property, the capital that you invest in that property or the value of the property is guaranteed 5 years from the date that you set in the property. So you can't lose your money. That's the first thing. If the property market goes down in value for whatever reason, we had a global financial crisis or some other disaster, perhaps Donald Trump gets re-elected, who knows. If anything like that happens, then, and the property market goes down in value, and we sell your property for less than what you paid for it, i.e., let's say you paid $800,000 for a property, and we sold it for $750,000, which you lost $50,000 of your capital, yeah? Well, instead of that, we will write you a check for $50,000 on the day of the sale. The sale will occur through an auction, through a third party, so it's all above board. All part of the contract. We offer a 10-year cash flow or rent guarantee, and which effectively means you have no risk of vacancy during the first 10 years of ownership of the property. And if your property is built in a good area, as we would expect it to be, then you will have no problem with rental vacancy period. And a 20-year quality structural guarantee is there to protect your investment. So we're the only company that I know of that offers anything like those guarantees. But because of that, our business really took off when we launched it in around 2012. Another part of our business is our private funding business. We have a company called Resimax Group Capital and Capital Finance Australia. These are two registered financial firms that allow our investors to park their money. Let's say you were to purchase an Australian property or purchase a property for the Resimax Group. You can park your money. The deposit money goes into a solicitor's trust account or an escrow account. That deposit money is guaranteed by the Australian federal government through the fiduciary, the property fiduciary fund, which means you cannot lose your deposit. It is 100% guaranteed by the Australian government. We as developers cannot touch your money. You don't get your money until we deliver you the property that you purchased. So you have no risk at all on that. If we fail to deliver the property, you get your money back. End of story. It's guaranteed by the government. Above the deposit, you can invest funds into one of these, and the current rates of interest are up to 8%. So they offer very good returns for investors, and the investment is secured against the property that you purchase. So again, offering a great deal of security. Resimax Group recently achieved one of the highest levels of refinancing in Australian property development. We were backed and funded by a Japanese investment bank by the name of Nomura, Allianz Global Investors, and Avenue Capital Group. They backed us to the tune of $500 million in a refinancing deal on a couple of our recent projects, and it's made big news, not just in Australia but also around the world. We're the only private company to have achieved that level of refinancing. Our results, and that's key, if you're here as an investor, you want to know what have we been able to do in the past. You guys, whatever I put on the slide, I can back up. Okay, I want you to know that I wouldn't put it on the slide. I can't make these statements unless I'm absolutely confident that we can back them up. Now, Nomura, when they wanted to, if you imagine lending somebody $500 million, you would imagine that they would do their due diligence. Yeah? Yeah, due diligence. Well, they did. And what they wanted to know was what we'd achieved for our investors. Now, since 2020, the beginning of 2020, or accurately at the end of 2019, we have made, it's up to about 6 months ago, 1,425 sales to people like yourself, investors overseas. 1,425 sales to that market. That doesn't include the market that purchased inside Australia. This is just our investor market from our overseas clients. 1,425 over that 3-year period. The combined uplift in the value of the properties that they purchased, just under $250 million. Just under $250 million. That means, on average, and remember it's an average, the people who invested at the end of 2019 have obviously had a greater share of this return than the people who invested 12 months ago. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so on average, each of those investors have achieved $171,738 capital growth on the table of their asset in 3 years. Many of those investors still haven't even paid for their property. These properties that have been sold off the plan have seen capital growth during the time that they were secured, the time that they are due to be settled, where often the values have increased significantly. We have had developments where the value of the land purchased by an investor from Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and even to a much smaller scale up until now, India, have had their land value doubled by the time they've actually had to pay for it. So these are really good returns on investment. So, if I've introduced Resimax Group, this is Resimax Group's introduction to the Indian property market. I've never been to India before. I'm 63 years old and I've travelled the world and I've spoken all around the place, and we've been selling properties right throughout Southeast Asia. And finally we decided to take the plunge and come to India, and IREX seemed like a great opportunity for us to introduce ourselves. I found myself a little bit of a fish out of water, particularly given a great focus of this conference is immigration. And it's certainly not a key part of what we do. We are property developers, we are property marketers, we are property investors. We make money out of property, and certainly that's our key priority. I do have somebody who is an immigration specialist out in Stand, and she can talk to you about the opportunities to immigrate to Australia, but I'll keep them completely separate. My great-grandfather served in the Australian Army and served alongside Indian troops during the First World War, and my grandfather was in the Second World War. And so my family have been telling me about places that they visited in India for all those years. So I was really excited to actually arrive here. I arrived here about a week ago, and so far it's been a whirlwind tour. I've been everywhere from the Wagga border, which I think is absolutely amazing. Indians are crazy. Crazy. You line up, you're a nuclear-armed country. You line up facing another nuclear-armed country and stick it to each other. It's insane, but the best fun I've had was absolutely awesome. The Golden Temple there was crazy. We were doing it for, that was absolutely beautiful. Went to Mumbai, that was an experience. Went to, where else did we go? I went to Agra yesterday. That was amazing. Yesterday, the day before. That was amazing. That's one of the most crazy things I've ever seen. So it's been a wonderful experience so far for us, and as I said, this is our first visit to India, so this is us introducing ourselves. My objective from this presentation is to do nothing other than have you go and visit our stand. I'm not going to share with you an investment opportunity from this stage. That is going to happen at the stand, and the guys can talk to you very specifically about your individual circumstances. So with your permission, what I will do though is share a little bit of my knowledge and help you with a structure or a process that you can use to assess the various investment opportunities that you might be confronted with. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. Alright, as property investors, you know that there is only one reason, and one reason only, that property ever increases in value. What's that reason? There is only one reason that a property will ever increase in value. What's the reason? Sorry? Demand. Demand is your oxygen as an investor. It is absolutely the first thing you should ask. Who cares what the property is made from? Who cares where it's located? Who cares what it looks like? It makes no difference. You're not going to live in it. It's an investment. And so the thing that you must determine before you even begin discussing any deal is there a demand for this investment? If you cannot be confident that there is demand today and ongoing into the future, cut that deal away. Walk away from it, don't waste your time, there will be other deals that you can look at. You are in the centre of the investment universe right now. There are companies from all around the world. We're all here talking to you. There's investment opportunities here. The first thing you must do to satisfy yourself is that there is demand for the investment that you're being presented. After you've established that, then most people would consider, if you're looking to select an investment property, what's one of the first things that you would consider? That's one of the first things that most people consider. Location. Who agrees location is probably really, really important? Yeah? Yeah? I disagree. And only because I like to be argumentative. I like to disagree. No, I think location is obviously critical, okay? But I just said, you're at the centre of the investment universe. Timing. Guys, property markets operate on the cycle. There are peaks and there are troughs. Too often people get excited, buy at a peak, and then when things go wrong, they sell in a trough. And it's an absolute recipe for losing money. Okay? So what you must determine when you're looking at the investment, you're satisfied that there is demand. But am I investing at the right time in the market? And you want to be investing when the market is just beginning. You want to be at the bottom of the cycle so that you capture the uplift. Does that make sense? And the sooner you can capture that uplift, you create equity. Equity is what you can use to reinvest in future properties without having to put your own money in. And if you can invest without having to use your own money, that's how you get real results going forward. Okay? So timing is the next thing to consider. After timing, we then think about the actual location. But I want you to think about location not from your perspective. You may have, living here in New Zealand, a particular style of life. You might like to live in a particular way. But if you're investing in a property, regardless of where that property is in the world, it's not for you to live in. It's for someone else to live in. And so as a property investor, when you're buying a property, it is not a home. It's not your home. It is simply a product. A product that you intend to offer for sale or lease to a customer. And what you must think through when you're looking at an investment property is who your customer is going to be. What your customer's desires, wants and goals are. What's going to maximise your investment return from your customer's perspective. Does everybody follow that? Customers are critical in this business. Property is a people business. It's not about anything else. It's not bricks, mortar, or any of that rubbish. It's all about people. And so you need to know who your customer is going to be. After that, we then want to talk about price. The price is an irrelevant number to the bank. What the bank is actually concerned with is the property's value. And in order to determine the value, they will send somebody to the property, and that person will be a licensed quantity surveyor or valuer, and that person will write down, in his opinion, what the value is, and that will become the value that the bank accepts. The price could be whatever it is, doesn't matter. The bank will only lend against what the valuer says the property is worth. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. All residential property is valued based on the last comparable sale, the last transacted result. So if a property in this street has sold for 500, the property next door, if it is exactly the same, when the valuer looks at it, he will value it at 500, yeah? So, if you were to buy a property for, that second property, for the price is 500, and you now ask for a discount, how big a discount would you like? How big a discount would you like, sir? Don't be greedy. 100? 100? You buy a $500 property for $400. That's a good discount, yeah? You agree, alright. So that's a pretty good result from his perspective, isn't it? But the bank goes to the property now, and the valuer goes to the property, looks at that contract for sale, and what is the property now valued at? 400. So the very first thing we do as an investor is evaluate the very asset that we're looking to invest in. And the golden rule, if you listen to Warren Buffett, of investment is don't lose money. Alright? So, I'm going to give you a different perspective. You must understand that the value of the property that you're purchasing is very, very close to the price that's being offered. Those things have to happen through due diligence. Yeah? You can determine that. But instead of negotiating for a discount, guys, come and talk to us about a deal. What if we could pay for things out of our pocket that you would ordinarily have to invest your money in? Like legal fees, like taxes, like travel expenses. I've had somebody come to me and say, Ken, I'll buy your property, but if you give me a brand new car. I'm happy to do that. Discount to me makes no difference, but it makes a big difference to you. Yeah. So, when you're negotiating, what you want to try and do is rather than negotiate a discount, get the same value as a discount by negotiating a better deal and have the developer incorporate into the purchase price those things that you would ordinarily have to fund out of your own pocket. Does that make sense? Yeah? This will dramatically improve your investment results, guys, I promise you. And then the last thing, but the most important thing we have to do when looking at selecting an investment or getting involved in an investment property is understanding what the risks are. And there are always risks. Yeah? There are always risks. So what can you do? And what I suggest to my investors do is that they start with a blank bit of paper. They draw a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side, they write down all the risks that they can think of if they bought an investment property. The risk. What happens if the property market goes down in value? That's a risk, yeah? What happens if I can't get a tenant? Yeah? What happens if whatever the other problems are? And rather than just waiting for it to happen, because heaven knows it will probably happen, have a strategy for dealing with it before it does. So instead of running around like a chook with a tent cut off in a storm, what you can do is something has happened, i.e. I can't get a tenant, I go to my drawer, I open it up, and there's my plan. Can't get a tenant, my strategy is this. And you implement your strategy in a cold, calculated way without panicking. If you panic, you'll lose. Does that make sense, everybody? So guys, I consider this to be the 6 keys to investment in property. They said this title was investing in Australian property. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's investing in any property. Anywhere in the world. All of these things, all of these points, demand, timing, location, price, deal and risk, they're very simple. You can remember them, you can write them down, you can check every single one of them in line with every investment you go to, and at the end of the day, you can actually work out which one was the best one for you. Hopefully I've given you a tool that can help you make better decisions. Now, I'm here representing Resimax Group, and Resimax Group was founded in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, and so we do all of our developments in Melbourne. Am I okay for time, sir? Yeah? We do all of our developments in Melbourne, and so I'll talk to you very quickly now about why you might consider Melbourne. Look, it's a great place to live. In fact, I think we've got about close to 40% of Australia's Indian population live in Melbourne. Has anybody here been to Melbourne? But yeah, it's a great place, right? You've probably got family there, I don't know. It's a very popular place, not just for Indian migration, but for migration worldwide. Melbourne right now is Australia's largest city. We have outgrown Sydney, and we are on track to double in size, so double our population. Do you remember the first thing I said was demand? Is there demand ongoing? Look, Australia will double its population probably in the next 30 or 40 years. Melbourne will definitely double its population probably in the next 20 or 25. Right, we're currently sitting at around 6 million people, which is insane. Think about this, Delhi is unbelievable. You know, your combined geographic area for Delhi is 1,400 roughly square kilometres, yeah? 1,400 square kilometres. I did my research. You have 33 million people live in that area. Melbourne, 10,500 square kilometres. We have 6 million people live in that area. You've got to get that Melbourne people live a hell of a lot differently to people here in Delhi, right? So if you're thinking about investing in Melbourne, you've got to think about who your customer is and understand what we like to do. But here's Melbourne. Right now, the Australian borders were shut during COVID, and since relaunching, reopening, we're looking at somewhere like, I don't know, 700,000 migrants arriving in Australia in less than 2 years. That's a population growth of close to 2%. Any country in the world would, you know, there's very few countries in the world that can even sustain population growth. I mean, I don't believe it's possible for India to double its population in the next 50 years. I just don't think that's possible. It'll be pretty hard. 1.4 billion and 2. Crazy. You couldn't do it. China can't do it. America can't do it. Australia is on track to do exactly that, and that's where you see rapid rising demand. And foreigners are flooding into the Australian property market. We're seeing searches, we're seeing rental demand rise, a whole bunch of stuff, all driven since the end of COVID. As I said, Treasury is expecting 350,000 this year, another 300,000 next year, 650, close to 700,000 people in 2 financial years migrating to Australia. The vast majority of those migrants will land and live in Melbourne. That's where the massive demand is in place. This is causing rents to rise. We have a housing crisis in Melbourne today. We have a limited supply of homes for people to live in. Now this is where Warren Buffett would say, you know, you take advantage of a market. This is taking advantage of a crisis in a way. We have people in Australia who can't find a home to live in. They are literally buying tents. This is Australia. They're buying a tent or a caravan to live and put their family in because we have not been able to keep up with the building supply. During COVID, all of our industry shut down for 2.5 years. We didn't build a house, yet our population is growing. So all the supply of housing is being consumed, now meaning that there is a massive unfilled demand for homes, whether that is for rentals or for purchases. 30 to 40% of all Australians currently rent. Melbourne home values, well, the banks are predicting, now this is during the peak of inflation. This is the time when economies are slowing down, and our banks are predicting our property prices to almost rise by 10%. Now, in order to double in value in a 10-year period, compounding, you need somewhere around 7%. In the next year, in a difficult time, we're already forecasting close to 10% capital growth, and we're seeing our governments now look to encourage foreign investors simply because we cannot fund, we cannot build sufficient homes for Australians to live in. So by investing in an Australian residential property, whether it's with me or any other developer, it makes every bit of difference to Australia, and this is why Australia is actively seeking investment from foreign nationals into Australian residential property, so we can boost the supply of homes for Australians to live in. You have the dual advantage. You're buying into a rapidly rising, rapidly growing market at the bottom of a cycle with the opportunity to pick up rapid capital growth and best yields that we've been able to offer in many, many years. Melbourne's ranked number 1 in Australia and 3rd in the world in the 2023 Global Livability Index. We're the number 1 city in the world, number 1 livable city in the world for 7 years running. We are crowned the world's friendliest city. I don't know about that. Delhi's really friendly. Everywhere I've been in India has been incredibly friendly, but we've crowned the world's friendliest city in 2022. We have world-class health and education program. We're home to one of the world's best universities. I mean, many people from India have attended universities like Melbourne University, the campus of the ANU that's down there, RMIT, La Trobe, Monash universities. These are our world-class institutions. So we're offering a great education program for students from around the world. 31% of our total population was born overseas. So 31% of the total population of Melbourne today was not born in Australia. So we are a multicultural society. We are welcoming of people into our community because we need them. Right? Everybody that comes to Australia is bringing something that we absolutely need in order to grow and prosper. So we welcome you. Since 2001, the number of Indian-born migrants in Melbourne has tripled. So we are the most popular city in Australia for Indian-born migrants to come to. So people that have been coming to our booth have been talking to me about buying a home that they will ultimately live in when they arrive in Australia. Our growth in population is causing a massive surge in housing demand. The supply hasn't kept up with that demand. There is the opportunity I spoke about. And the demand is expected to continue until 2050, when Australia's population is expected to be close to double where it is right now. High rental yields, I've already spoken about. Land prices in some locations have doubled in value in less than 5 years. I can show you examples of properties invested in by some of my customers, particularly from Singapore and Malaysia, who invested at the end of 2019, but their land values have actually more than doubled since the end of 2019. These are real statistical, real actual provable results. Now, we also are very friendly to foreign investors. We do offer funding, finance from Australian lending institutions, and currently an Indian national who obviously qualifies from a serviceability perspective, has an income, and we have a finance specialist on our stand who can talk to you. You can borrow up to 85% of the value of the property that you're looking to invest in. So you only require 15% equity to get into one of these deals. You can borrow interest only. In other words, you don't have to pay back the principal. You can literally rent the money. And you can rent the money to invest in one of these properties for up to 30 years, regardless of your age. We have got clients who are 70 years old buying a property getting a 30-year loan. Believe it or not. Right? Because our Australian banks don't lend to necessarily you, the individual. They want to know some serviceability, but they lend against the property. Right? Our banks are confident in the future value of the property. If the banks are confident, they're the most conservative people on the planet. If the banks are confident enough to lend you 85%, against any of the investment opportunities that I present to you, and our banks are probably some of the most conservative in the world, you've got to get that these are reasonably confident, reasonably safe investment. And our loan mortgage accounts offer a 100% offset account. So in other words, if you borrow $100 and you deposit $100 with that same lending institution, you pay zero interest. One offsets the other. Does that make sense? So as an investor, you can control what your cash flow looks like at any point in time. These are normal facilities. The Reserve Bank of Australia says over the past 30 years, property has increased. This is all property all across Australia. So that's property in the middle of the desert and property in the middle of the city. All of that property, on average, combined, has increased in value by 7.25% for the last 30 years. During the global financial crisis, during the MERS crisis, during COVID, during everything, when many of the other countries around the world have suffered economically and suffered in many other ways, Australia has continued to sail through, all driven off the back of very good commodities and a rising population. And property has doubled in value in less than 10 years. And in the better areas, the areas that we would invest in, property values have risen much faster than this. 85% leverage in an investment property, in Australian residential property, based on the RBA's figures, this Reserve Bank of Australia, based on their figures. If you leverage the property at 85%, in other words, you bought a $1 million property and you borrowed $850,000. You put in $150,000 of your own money. If that's what you did, your return on cash per annum is 66% over the past 30 years. That is a pretty good investment return, I would suggest to anyone. In an economy that is based on British common law, we have very similar laws. We have the safest land title system on the planet. It's our most exported legal document, is our title system. We have a solid political system. We have sound financials. We've had 30 or more years of continuous economic growth during the most difficult times that the planet has seen in the last couple of centuries. So guys, I suggest that Melbourne might be something that you would consider if you're looking at investment. I would also suggest that it might be a wonderful place for you to migrate to if you were looking at that. I can't help you with the migration. I have somebody at my stand that can answer your questions. I really appreciate you allowing me to take the time to talk to you. The last slide I want to present is just proving that land values. So the per square metre of land across all capital cities, you see Sydney has grown fastest in across all the capital cities in Australia, but Melbourne, land values have more than doubled, and the current price of land in Indian rupee is, look, it's 1,071 Australian dollars, equivalent to $1,071 per square metre is the average price of a parcel of land. So you can multiply that out and work out what land sale might cost. And the current AUD 52.6, I think it's a pretty good exchange rate. So in a circumstance where our currency begins to rebound, an investment today can benefit from the two aspects. Your currency can grow in value as a result of the currency exchange rate improving, and you pick up the capital value on the asset and the rental yield from the property, and all backed and guaranteed by a 5, 10, 20 guarantee. Find out more. And we do have a pretty crazy introductory deal. I'm not going to share it on the stage. We do have a pretty good deal. I want to make a splash in India. I want to establish a foothold. It is my objective to have an office here within 2 years. I will achieve it, and I'll buy the market. I'll do what I've got to do. To make a splash. So I encourage you to come and visit us at our stand, find out what we can do. Hopefully I've entertained you, hopefully I've informed you. I've enjoyed talking to you guys. Thank you for